अस्सलाम वालेकुम रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह वहदहू ला शरीका लहू व अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदन अब्दुहू व रसूलुहू। अम्मा बअदु फ़अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन अर्रहमानिर्रहीम मालिकि यौमिद्दीन। इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन। इहदिनस सिरातल मुस्तकीम सिरातल लज़ीना अनअमता अलैहिम गैरिल मग़दूबि अलैहिम वलद्दाल्लीन। One of the biggest blessings that Allah the Almighty has blessed the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Islam after the institution of Khilafat is the institution of Nizam-e-Shura. There is a hadith of Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam which says that there can be no caliphate without the institution of Shura, without taking any mashwara. La khilafata illa bil mashwarat. Then in the Holy Quran, Allah the Almighty says that shawirhum. In one place Allah Ta'ala says that referring to Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that you should take opinions, suggestions from other believers. And then at another place in the Holy Quran, Allah the Almighty says that the matters of the believers are decided through mutual consultation. Wa amruhum shura bainahum. That the matters of importance related to the Muslim Ummah, related to the Jamaat of the believers, they are decided upon through mutual consultation. At the time of Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would often counsel his closest companions. Sometimes those companions would be his spouse. Sometimes those companions would actually be the Kibar Sahaba. Sometimes they would be the general public. And similarly was the practice of the Khulafa Rashideen. May Allah be pleased with all of them. And then in Jamaat-e-Ahmadiyya, Hazrat Masih Maud ﷺ used to take counsel of his companions. And then at the time of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Thani, Hazrat Muslim Maud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the institution, the Nizam of Shura officially became part of Jamaat-e-Ahmadiyya. And on the Islamic precepts, on the precepts of Khilafat, on the precepts of prophethood, the way it was foretold, Khilafat-e-Ahmadiyya started to practice the institution of Nizam-e-Shura. The way Nizam-e-Shura works is that every year, and sometimes even more than once a year, at the behest of Khalifatul Masih, Shura is convened. It is also convened at the international level, which is directly called by Khalifatul Masih. Whenever Khalifatul Masih feels the need that he wants to discuss matters of international importance, he calls a Shura whereby the national Umara and then other people whom Khalifatul Masih deems fit to counsel, meaning those people are considered worthy of giving Khalifatul Masih an opinion, a suggestion. Those individuals are then at the behest of Khalifatul Masih are called upon at a location where the international Shura happens. And then apart from the international Shura, we have the localized version, the national version of Shura, which happens in pretty much every country where Jamaat-e-Ahmadiyya is established. People from all walks of life, every Ahmadi basically has a say when it comes to the way things work in our Jamaat. And the way that happens is that members of our Jamaat are encouraged throughout the year that if there are matters of importance, if there are important matters that you want to bring to Jamaat's attention, bring to the administrative body's attention, then present a proposal. Then those proposals are sent to the national headquarters, and then after getting Hazur's approval, those proposals are then discussed in the Majlis-e-Shura, the National Majlis-e-Shura, which convenes for 3 days at the national headquarters or wherever it convenes. Now those individuals, of course, not everybody can be part of the Majlis-e-Shura. By the grace of Allah the Almighty, there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of Ahmadi Muslims living in the United States of America. Not every single individual can be part of the Majlis-e-Shura. Hence, every chapter, they elect certain number of individuals whom they consider as the cream of the crop. And they elected them as their representatives who would go and present their concerns at the National Shura body. Once they discuss different matters, they come up with various solutions. Then those solutions are presented to Khalifatul Masih, Ayyadahullah bin Nasr al-Aziz, and then Khalifatul Masih, he would then either approve of them, amend them, or discard them. Taking mashwara is obligatory for the Khalifa, but to go by those mashwara is not. That is completely up to Khalifatul Masih. So that being said, when the Shura every year takes place, the members of the Shura body, it is their responsibility that for the remainder of the year, until the next Shura takes place, they are the representatives. They still act as the delegates of Shura. And whatever is discussed, they are supposed to bring that information in the form of the approved Shura, not just the proposals, but the decisions for the sake of implementation, back to the local chapter, and then share that information with each and every member of Jamaat, male, female, young or old. Now this is the trust that you have placed in the hands of individuals who will be representing you in Majlis-e-Shura at the national level. That being said, for tonight's class, I have selected the proceedings of the Tarbiyat subcommittee from last year's Shura. There were 2 proposals which were submitted, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share with you those original proposals that were approved by Khalifatul Masih, Ayyadahullah bin Nasr al-Aziz, for the purpose of discussion. And then I'm not going to share the comments that the subcommittee made, but rather I'm going to discuss the solutions that they came up with, which were ultimately approved by Khalifatul Masih, so that each and every one of you is aware of the administrative side of our Jamaat. And the purpose of sharing this information is so that collectively we should do something about these issues that are prevalent in our Jamaat. The very first proposal, which was approved for discussion last year for the Tarbiyat subcommittee, was, in the current environment, Hazur Aqdas Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz has been laying a lot of stress on modesty and haya for both men and women. The level of parda that Hazur Anwar Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz expects to see in girls and women requires fathers and husbands to be partners and advocates. Also, following parda injunctions requires men to make adjustments in their social interactions and to fully understand the significance of parda. Many men are uncomfortable with their wives observing parda. Therefore, it affects their lifestyle. It is requested that the Jamaat Shura should recommend programs that addresses these lifestyle choices on a Jamaat level in addition to auxiliary level, so that such couples are on the same page. The solutions or recommendations which were suggested by the Shura body ultimately got approved by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Ayyadahullah bin Nasr Aziz. Under this proposal, there are 7 recommendations. Number 1, within 1 month, 2 members of the subcommittee should compile and share with members citations from Islamic sources about the responsibilities of men towards building a culture where parda is practiced and appreciated. This document, I have brought with me a copy of it. I have printed it. Any individual who may desire to have a copy of this, you can ask me or you can ask the local Tarbiyah secretary. Then the second recommendation was, within 1 month, a 3-person committee should develop a presentation profiling examples of real world situations which might help men realize how their choices and actions are affecting their own spirituality with regards to parda and that of their wives. For this, a workshop was indeed developed, and I do have a printed copy of that workshop. Any individual who is interested can grab a copy of that from me as well. The recommendation number 3 was that Jamaat USA should observe a Parda Appreciation Day this year, where the above mentioned educational guide and presentation are discussed in a loving, compassionate and interactive fashion, and where the blessings of Parda can be highlighted. This is supposed to be done, meaning this workshop along with the FAQ document that the subcommittee prepared, or that the subcommittee prepared, should be discussed and presented at a Parda Appreciation Day. And we're supposed to do this before the upcoming Shura, which is literally a month and a half away from today. Point number 4 was, local Islahi committees should identify the magnitude of the problem of men being uncomfortable with their female family members observing Parda and explore opportunities to implement reformative measures at the local level. For this purpose, the Islahi committee has to convene. I'm not sure if the Islahi committee thus far has convened, at least for these 2 Jamaats. If they have and discussed this, I am not aware. If they have not, then I would request the Tarbiyat secretaries of both of these Jamaat, CBA and NVA, to please reach out to me so that we can discuss a plan to have a meeting for the Islahi committee as soon as possible. Point number 5 was, premarital counseling and Tayar Academy should include relevant educational materials in their programs. I believe the premarital counseling department under Rishta Nata department of Jamaat, they are probably already doing it. Regarding Tayar Academy, I believe we have the vice principal. Would you happen to know if Tayar Academy has indeed incorporated educational aspect of Parda in your curriculum?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. Point number 6 was, at least 1 Friday sermon should be delivered this year to apprise men of their responsibility to foster a culture of Parda in their families. This one might have already been done, but inshallah ta'ala I intend to also give 1 sermon within a week or 2, inshallah ta'ala, or within the next few weeks basically. And point number 7 was, the recommendation number 7 under this proposal was, that all Shura members, this includes the National Majlis-e-Amla, the missionaries of our Jamaat, all the presidents, and then all the delegates, all Shura members should pledge to lead by example and ensure that these principles are being practiced in their own households. The point number 7 requires from all the Shura delegates It requires from all the ex-official members, whether in the form of missionaries, the National Majlis-e-Amla, including Amir Sahib and his cabinet, his members of his Majlis-e-Amla, and all the presidents of our Jamaat. It requires of them to lead by example. This was the first proposal, and they only had 2 proposals last year under Tadbiyat, and the second one is a shorter one. The second proposal is, 4 years ago, Majlis-e-Shura deliberated on the topic of establishing congregational prayers. As a result, Alhamdulillah, progress has been made at various levels, including but not limited to establishing more than 250 Salat centers nationwide. However, more work is needed to populate our mosques. Majlis-e-Shura should recommend achievable ways to populate our mosques on a sustained basis. And the approved recommendations are: number 1, the body recognizes that as per directive of Hazur Aqdas Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasrihil Aziz, all the Amla members should be the first to offer congregational prayer at the masjid. So, first and foremost, according to this recommendation which got Hazur's approval, all the Majlis-e-Amla members, whether you are the Majlis-e-Amla at any level, you are supposed to offer congregational prayers at the masjid. Point number 2 was, for all mosques that are not open daily, there are certain mosques or places that our Jamaat is renting which are serving as Salat centers, for example, and they do not open daily. Amla members should be assigned to come to the masjid, those masajid that do not open regularly, on specific days of the week, and should be given the responsibility of leading the prayer that day, so as to make sure that at least every day masjid is opened up. A calendar can be printed and disseminated with the names of such Amla members. This point does not necessarily apply in our case, since our masjid does open up every day and we have the 5 daily prayers in congregation happening here by the grace of Allah the Almighty. The next point was, for all mosques that are not open daily, a senior citizen should be appointed as Khadim-e-Masjid, caretaker, the way we have in Pakistan, to spend a part of their day at the masjid with the specific focus of keeping the masjid open for Zohar and Asr prayers. Since their responsibility includes basic upkeep of the masjid, in exceptional circumstances, Jamaat may reimburse their travel and meal expense. Again, this is something which doesn't necessarily apply in our case, as our masjid is actually open 5 times a day every day. The next point, which is point number 4, was improve the mosque facility. Improve the mosque facility to include activities like study space with internet connection, sports, etc., so that after the primary purpose of Salat is fulfilled, members could spend time together for communal activities. I believe we do have the internet facility, and we do have the basement area where Khuddam or any members of our Jamaat can congregate for communal purposes, such as playing table tennis, for discussions, or even for doing homework, so on and so forth. The recommendation number 5 was that it is recommended to respect the time constraints. Now this point is very, very important. All the points are, according to this point, it is recommended to respect the time constraints of members when they come for congregational prayers. Therefore, punctuality should be observed, and members should not be asked to perform last-minute tasks. According to this point, if somebody comes to masjid for prayer and some Wakari Amal needs to be done, or some task needs to be allocated or pointed to the Khudam or to Ansar or to Lajna or to Atfal or Nasrat, whoever. It shouldn't be a last minute thing. It should be properly planned. Membership should be informed ahead of time. The wisdom is that when people come with the mindset that they are going to masjid for prayers, and then they're going to head out and then take care of whatever business that they need to take care of. If they come to masjid and then the local administration asks them, okay, well, now you have to do this, now you have to do that, next time they might not want to come back to masjid, thinking that if we go back to masjid, that we might be asked to do something on the spot. And henceforth, after salat, if we are still at the masjid, we might end up missing our appointment or whatever that we were supposed to do. We might not be able to take care of it. So we need to be very, very careful in how we approach our members. And it was for this very reason that the Majlis al-Shura recommended this with respect to Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, and Hazur Anwar has approved it. Now it has to be implemented, and nobody after this recommendation got approved has the right to say that it should not be implemented or it should be tweaked this way or that way. Recommendation number 6 is that ultimately the Jamaat Sadr is responsible for reminding members about the importance of populating the mosque. Emphasis on populating the masjid should be given priority. And number 7, last but not least, husbands and wives should work as a single unit to drive children to the masjid whenever possible. And this should be encouraged at all levels. So these are the 2 proposals, and then the subsequent recommendations which were made by the subcommittee to Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Ayyadahullah bin Nasr al-Aziz and were approved, and now they have to be implemented. A report on these have to be submitted to the national headquarters. If any individual has any question on things that I have presented before you, please go ahead and ask. Yes, sir. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
There's every night after Isha or Maghrib is not required, and sometimes it may fall under what you just characterized as people when they come for namaz, they just come for namaz. So I enjoy that you have it at Fajr also and at night also. But is it necessary or is it kind of mandatory that it should be done every night?
Okay, Jazakallah for your question. Your question is basically that the nightly dars is not compulsory. And if it isn't compulsory, then is it necessary for us to have it every night? Because it can easily fall into the same category that people come to masjid for prayers, and if they have to stay longer, then they might not want to come back, or it might affect their, whatever task that they're performing or they need to perform. First and foremost, the nightly dars is compulsory. So is the dars which is after Fajr. Hazur Anwar Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz has told us, meaning the missionaries, that after Fajr Salat, the dars needs to be from Tafsir Kabir of Hazrat Muslim radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And similarly in the evening, after Isha prayer, the dars needs to be either on the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or from Malfuza, meaning the writings of the Promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam. And keeping that in mind, our Jamaat has selected a book. I believe the Talim department has suggested that we go with the philosophy of the teachings of Islam. Hence, it is ongoing. So I think the very premise of the question itself is wrong. Dars after Isha prayer and dars after Fajr prayer is compulsory. There is another dars which I give, and that I give after Maghrib Salah. But then at Maghrib Salah, there are not that many individuals anyways. What I do after Maghrib Salah is that the current most khutbah of Hazur Anwar, I basically divide it into piecemeal and then I give dars on that. So that everything that Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Ayyadahullah bin Nasr Aziz has mentioned in his previous khutbah Jummah keeps on, so that I am mentioning it to the members of Jamaat over and over, so that it remains fresh in our minds, and any action item which I mentioned in that, we can act on those. I think the activities which fall under the recommendation are activities such as Wakari Amal, or activities such as, that may fall under any kind of task which might be asked of one individual or two individuals. As far as dars is concerned, if anybody sits and listen to it, it is for their own good. If somebody chooses to walk out and go take care of their business, that is their ultimate, decision. So I am of the opinion that the durus that we give do not fall under that category. Any other question? Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum Rabbi Sahib.
Wa alaikum assalam.
There are two statements that I would like to just bring it up here regarding Shura proposals and the approval of the proposals and its implementation. As we elect Shura delegates, they become part and parcel of that particular proposals, and they are supposed to be implementing it during the course of the year. So they kind of hold it and they carry it to the end. I understand, of course, Sadr is also there, and all those delegates which we elect, they should take it to themselves that they have to do it, right? That is the thing that should have been scattered or staggered over the year, instead of putting everything in 1 month or right before the next grant, just to say that we have done it. I think that impact is not there. That is one thing. And the second thing is, of course, Usman Sahib has mentioned, and you are also saying, and that is the truth, we can't say it is faraz for a dars, but it is very much appreciated. Of course, it is a instruction from Khalifa Waqt, so we should regard as that. But then we can't put that in the category of farz namaz or farz this and farz that. So I think that these two things I would like to mention.
Regarding your first point, that the Shura delegates are responsible for the implementation of the Shura decisions. Yes, they are, in partnership with the local departments within Jamaat. Like for example, if there is something related to Tarbiyat department, then the Tarbiyat department needs to get involved along with the Shura delegates from your local Jamaat. Together in partnership, they're supposed to make sure that this is being implemented. And if this is not being implemented, then the Shura delegates from last year, it is their job to keep on reminding the local administration that, look, this was decided upon by the Shura body, ultimately approved by Hazur Anwar Ayyadahullah bin Nasr Aziz, and we're supposed to implement it. Why are we not implementing it?
That is my point.
Yes.
I'm not saying that they can just go on their own and start doing it. Of course, there is a nizam. It has to go through the nizam, but they are becoming the part of that. They need to, if they were attending the subcommittee of Tarbiyat, then it is their duty that they do this.
So that being said, your point was that it should have been scattered or spread out over the entire year, instead of just taking the last month and addressing these points. And I agree with that. This isn't something just for the last month. But if for whatever reason, somehow we forgot that we need to implement these things, these Shura recommendations, we need to implement them and monitor and then report back to the national headquarters. If for whatever reason we forgot, or somehow this escaped our mind, or God forbid that we ignored it, that doesn't mean that if we have a month left, then there is no point in implementing them. Yes, the best practice is that as soon as the Shura recommendations come back from Khalifatul Masih Ayyadahullah bin Nasr Aziz, we should start implementing them right away. But if we have not done thus far, then let's make sure that we do not go back to the National Shura of Jamaat empty-handed, saying that we did not do anything, saying that we took the words of Khalifatul Masih, the decision of Khalifatul Masih Ayyadullah bin Nasr al-Aziz, but we did not implement it. Even if there is one day left, whatever you can do, we should strive our best to make sure that whatever comes from Khalifatul Masih Ayyadullah bin Nasr al-Aziz, we should try to implement it in the best fashion possible. So now that we do have about 6 weeks before this year's Shura may commence, we have 6 weeks from today up to this year's Shura. So let's make sure whatever action items, and I'm not saying that none of the action items were performed. It's possible that majority of them were performed, it's possible some of them were performed and some were not. And it's also possible that maybe none of them were performed. Whatever the reality is, I say we have 6 weeks of time in front of us. Let's make sure that we give our best and implement as much as we can. And I think one of the foremost things regarding the first proposal is that we need to have a Parda Appreciation Day where the workshop needs to happen, where the FAQ needs to happen, where the Q&A session needs to happen basically. So that is something that should take priority going forward as soon as possible. And then the recommendations regarding improving attendance at the masjid, at our salat, the Shura recommendation specifically talks about the Amla members first and foremost. The other point was that we should encourage couples to travel as a family unit and bring their children. I mean, the number of fathers or husbands that we have sitting here, according to this recommendation, it should match the number of wives or daughters coming to masjid for salah. If we have 30 or 40 fathers sitting here, then we should technically have 30 to 40 wives or daughters sitting upstairs. But I don't know if that is happening or not. So maybe we need to look deep inside our own selves and let's start doing what we're supposed to do as family. Yes, sir.
Can I answer something?
Ji, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Aksar is your national authority, local Tarbiyat secretary
for CVA.
For CVA Jamaat, and we have received instruction from National Secretary Tarbiyat regarding this Parda Appreciation Day. So they are going to send us some program for that, some video or some PowerPoint slides, and we have in our plan, which I submitted to the our respected Sadr Sahab few weeks back in January first week, that we are going to do it in sometime in March. So there is a plan, just to let you know that. And second part is that reminding Amla Membran, this poor, I humbly have been reminding all the Amla members over this Ashra Tarbiyat. I sent reminders to the all Amla, members, and I have been monitoring those with the grace of Allah. I have been putting there even how many Amla members attended it.
So Alhamdulillah, some work has been
done. Duly, with the grace of Allah, not it was 100% successful, but we tried humbly and we will keep doing it, inshallah.
Just in case if you're still waiting for that workshop to come from the National Tarbiyat Subcommittee, you don't have to wait. I believe they have sent it many times. I just had a quick conversation before coming here with the secretary of the Tarbiyat Subcommittee, Imam Rizwan Khan Sahab, who was serving as missionary here before me.
I didn't.
He informed me that this was shared with all the Jamaats many times, and he even sent it to the missionaries maybe once or twice. So I did not have it in my inbox, so he sent it to me again today, and I printed it. I have a copy of it. What we need to do is we need to make sure that we now have a day for the appreciation day on our calendar for the month of March, or as soon as possible. Basically, it doesn't necessarily need to be in March, but as soon as we can.
We will do it, sir.
And inshallah ta'ala, let's go forward with it.
Inshallah.
Any questions from anyone? Chale ji, Jazakallah. This is it for tonight. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll continue next week. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.